Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of the Comic Review. My name is Eric and today we're going to speed through another review of the Rebirth specials that came out on June 8th. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. We're going to review Flash Rebirth #1. This review is a little interesting. This book was a little interesting coming out this week. This is probably the one book that actually, or one of the few books that have actually tied directly into Rebirth, in a sense that if you haven't read DC Rebirth, and if you have not, we'll put a link up here to get you on the review of that book. But spoilers if you haven't read it yet, but Wally West, the original Wally West from the pre-Flashpoint universe, or the time of before Flashpoint, essentially, has returned to the New 52/Rebirth world. This book actually operates kind of as a prequel/sequel to that storyline. This Rebirth special actually covers a little bit of time prior to DC Universe Rebirth. It covers Wally and Barry meeting in DC Universe Rebirth, and then it covers a little bit of time afterward, and a little bit of interaction with Batman and everything and what he was kind of doing. Again, this one probably ties in the closest just because of the fact that its actual events are depicting something that happened in that book. So let's go ahead and see what this issue has in store for us. The book opens on a crime scene that is very reminiscent of one that we've seen before. If you've seen the Flash TV series, or if you've been reading the New 52 version of Barry Allen Flash, you know that Barry's mother was killed and that his father was the one who was blamed for the crime. At first, this book makes me think that they're kind of going back to that murder scene, so like it kind of takes place in the past, but it's actually just another murder scene mirroring that one. So we get to our introduction of Barry Allen here in this book, and with that said, these first few pages of this book, until we get to the actual crossover with DC Universe Rebirth, are, to me, a good setup for the Flash as a whole, getting readers kind of caught up on what is going on with this character. We get a couple of panels on Barry's origins. He talks about himself, how he got his powers, how he's a forensic scientist. So we get a little bit of his background. You get an introduction to this character. Whereas, like, say, with the Wonder Woman Rebirth issue, we got just conflicting origin stories that will probably be worked out in that book. This book, you get clear cut. This is Barry Allen. This is how he got his powers. This is his backstory with his family, and then we're off. We find out that Barry is getting weird visions from the Speed Force. The Speed Force is trying to warn him, supposedly, of something going on, possibly a new villain, or it could be having to do with spoilers. The Watchmen interacting with the DC Universe. We're not 100% sure what the thing is that the Speed Force is trying to warn Barry about. Even toward the end of the book, we're not quite sure, although we get to the middle of the book, we have an idea. Barry goes to his father, who, again, was recently released from jail. They have like a little bit of talk about the visions that Barry's getting. His father just kind of attributes them to Barry needing to slow down, rest up, and everything. He even asks him, how much research has been done on the actual Speed Force, and Barry reveals that there has been some kind of a scientific embargo on doing research from the JLA, Argus. That's probably something kind of you would think is kind of a throwaway line, but there's probably going to be something that they investigate in the series going forward. Barry then is going around, racing around town, doing some various superhero-y type things while he's waiting for evidence to be processed for the murder at the beginning of the book. And during this scene of him running around Central City all over the place, this is where we get the crossover of Wally West coming out of the Speed Force, interacting with Barry, and Barry pulling him out of the Speed Force and getting all his memories back of Wally West's history, and realizing that there was a Teen Titans team before. If you, again, have not read that book, I highly suggest finding a second printing copy. It should be coming out soon. Finding that second printing, buying it, reading through it. If you want to, and again, we'll have a link to the review that we did here on Comic Review. But the scene with Wally goes a little bit deeper, with him actually telling Barry about how he can't really go to anybody like Iris or Linda, his former wife, or anybody, because of the fact that no one else is seeming to remember who he is. Only Barry's remembering who he is. Now, that's not to say that for some reason these memories aren't like getting back to people now that Wally's actually in existence, but it seems like for some reason the connection Barry and Wally have to the Speed Force is what's allowing Barry to get through the mental fog, I guess, that possibly Dr. Manhattan has been putting on these characters with the stealing of the 10 years from the DC Universe. Wally then leaves to go check in with the other Titans characters who have been dealing with issues similar with realizing that they have a secret history together that the Titans characters didn't know they had over in the Titans Hunt miniseries. So this scene right here of Wally going off to be with the Titans is most likely what's leading to his appearance in the Titans Rebirth special, which I want to say comes out later this month. I'm not sure if it's this week or next week, but it's going to be coming out sometime during June. So be on the lookout for that. And Wally also mentions conjuring up a costume through the Speed Force and reminding Barry that apparently they're able to do that. So it seems like even with the 10 years taken from the DC Universe, they talked about, weakening the DC Universe for some reason. This is kind of the first glimpse we see of that, because Barry's remembering that there's abilities he has using the Speed Force that he just completely forgot about whenever the 10 years were stolen from them. So that's kind of an interesting take to me, already showing that these characters are at a lower power level and maturity levels and everything than they should be. So that's a pretty good take on it, though we're not going to probably have a major revelation of what actually is going on in the DC Universe. You would hope for sooner, but most likely I'm actually hoping for later, because I'm really wanting these status quos to be established more before we just jump into the whole Watchmen being in the DC Universe thing. Almost the last few pages of this book are dedicated to Barry meeting up with Batman, who has found the comedian's pen in the Batcave wall, apparently. And I didn't catch this in the DC Universe recap, but it seems Wally must have possibly put it there from the dialogue I'm reading. Wally put it there when all the electricity and everything was going around. So who knows what the implications of that are, but Wally must have been giving him trying to give the hero some kind of clues. If he couldn't get back out of the Speed Force, he was trying to give them clues that something was wrong. Batman and Barry decide that they are not going to tell the rest of the League right away what's going on, so that's probably why you're not going to see a lot of investigation of this, especially in the 2 Justice League books that are going to be coming out. Whenever they decide to do, the Watchmen crisis, whatever they're going to call that, it's going to be something crisis, universal crisis. I have no idea, but whenever they do that, that's probably where we're going to pick up on these story bits here. But I would almost gather that you're not going to see a lot in either the Batman books or the Flash book of the actual investigation of this. The issue ends with 2 of the cops who are investigating the original murder wanting to know, one's wanting to know if Barry had finished the analysis of the murder scene yet. The other cop says that the husband actually confessed to the entire murder, and says something along the lines of, even Barry Allen is mistaken sometimes. During this scene, you see a electrified version of what appears to be the Flash. Not 100% sure if that's the Flash, because we do see him in the page prior running from the Batcave, running somewhere and talking, not necessarily talking about this investigation, but just talking about the previous investigation. So you're kind of left wondering if the opaque electrical figure is Barry, or if it's some kind of other speedster. I say that because, not to get too ahead of ourselves here, but in 2 weeks we are going to be starting a new Flash series, Flash #1, and one of the main beats of that storyline is going to be that something happens with the Speed Force, and there's all these other speedsters and or Speed Force powered characters running around Central City. The figure's not necessarily red, it's more gold, so it's not sure if it's Barry or if it's some other character. Overall, I thought this was a very solid book, and I think it did well as a sequel to DC Universe Rebirth #1. I felt it did a very good job of establishing the Flash's character. We got a little bit more insight into Barry and Wally's relationship, as well as a little expansion on Wally's Wally's reveal to Barry that he exists essentially. Not too much connection in this book to what's going to be going on next, with the revelation that there's going to be more speedsters and Speed Force characters popping up in Central City. This book really didn't touch on that at all, or even make mention of it, but unless that figure at the end was one of the other speedsters, they just happened to walk by. But the way that the wings on the head of the character look and everything, it's probably what's Barry. So let me know what you thought of this issue. Did you like the expanded interaction between Wally and Barry? Did you like the fact that Batman just wasn't going to let this investigation just drop off, that the writers actually attempted to even address it once again, and not just in the main Rebirth one-shot? Let me know in your comments, and let me know what kind of things you are looking forward to from the Flash series overall. 2 weeks from now, so that'll be on June 22nd, is the official start of the Flash ongoing series. So it's going to be Flash #1, so be on the lookout for that. Again, June 22nd. And I'd like to thank you guys for watching the video. If you could, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel, and follow me on the various social media links I have down below. And I will see you guys in the next review. Later.